special programme on gun laws at 8:30, and a full bulletin of news for you at 8. That's from me. Back now to Jeff at the Gherkin.
Thanks, Martin. Now, Rangers Football Club took an important step in its financial fight back today with a return to the stock market. The Glasgow side, which has been champions north of the border a record 54 times, was forced into the fourth tier of Scottish football after its previous owners went into liquidation. The club raised more than £22 million of London's alternative investments market, with its new management pledging to rediscover Rangers' glory days. Well, the shares were offered at 70p, valuing the club at £45 million. They opened this morning at 75p and ended the day a smidgen over 76p. Well, earlier today I spoke to Rangers Chief Executive Charles Green and started by asking him, given that hard-pressed fans had committed £5 million to the club's share offer, how did he intend to repay their loyalty?
Well, we said from the start, Jeff, that our vision for Rangers is to have a business there that is sustainable, that can move forward, that can regain its former glories, and this commitment from the fans, coupled with the investment that we had in the previous week from the institution, gives us now a position that's never been seen at Rangers. And indeed, if you look at the UK and perhaps even onto a wider European platform, how many clubs are sat there with no debt, no borrowings and cash in the bank? And I suggest it's less than I've got fingers on my two hands.
Will you keep faith with the faithful, as it were? Because other clubs say it, but for Rangers it's absolutely true. This is more than a club. There are rumours, discussions that you are going to sell the naming rights of Ibrox. Ibrox is the home of Rangers. You're not going to change that name. Tell me you're not.
No, I'm not going to tell you I'm not. What I've said from day one is what I'm going to do is make sure this club is financially sustainable, and if by selling the naming rights of Ibrox brings in additional cash, the fact that we've now got 25 million in the bank, Jeff, are you suggesting I should go on holiday for 2 years, let that money fritter it away and come back? We're not going to do that.
But not everything can be for sale at a football club.
Everything's for sale at a football club. Everything's for sale at a football club. But what we have to do...
How do you retain the uniqueness of Rangers if everything's for sale?
Well, Rangers is an institution. It's not a football club, and we said that to the institutional investors. But, whether we should preserve the name Ibrox, look what happened at Newcastle. We've now got a situation at Newcastle where the new sponsor has paid £8 million to call it St James's Park. What's wrong with that mechanism? So I think what we have to do is not get caught up in the fact that everyone's going to call it Ibrox. I'm going to call it Ibrox, and I'm not an impassioned Rangers fan. But if someone wants to use that international brand to promote his company by paying Rangers a fee for the privilege of doing it, why shouldn't we?
As you said earlier, you are now in an almost unique position in British football. You are debt-free with cash in the bank. History tells us that football clubs with cash in the bank tend to do silly things. They rush out and buy players they shouldn't. What's your plan?
Well, we've got a position, unfortunately, I add, that we can't buy players. We can't go out to buy anyone until January 2014. Of course, Ali made a comment the other day, we can look now, which we are actively doing, for out-of-contract players to sign next September. We have to be aware of the market in terms of players, because there will be restructuring. I mean, it's been talked about openly now, both by the SPL and the Scottish Football League. And what I need to do as Chief Exec, and what Ali needs to do as manager, is make sure that if Rangers are drawn into a higher league or into a different position, that we can be competitive. And so in the IPO, we've already provisioned 10 million of those funds for Ali to go out and buy players when he can. And of course, you must remember as well, Jeff, that today our market cap when we opened was 45 million. 25 million of that was cash, plus the assets, but we'll also sell season tickets next year. So we'll have another 20 million of cash before we need to go out and buy players.
You need to be careful, Charles Green. It'll be burning a hole in your pocket before long. Now, what about you personally? You talk about the club as a business, you talk about this as an investment. Is that it? Is it just an investment to you? If the Sheikh of Arabi comes along with a cheque for £1 zillion, are you off?
I wouldn't go no, and I don't believe that's the right way for football. I said it in May, I'm saying it now. I made the promise that no one should have more than 10 to 15%. I'm the single biggest shareholder with 8% now. I actually have also changed. I said day one I'm not a Rangers fan, and I've made no secret of it.
But it's creeping up on you.
I've got this disease and it is creeping up, and last night when I find myself jumping out my seat when the third goal comes in, I'm starting to worry about myself. But, you know, I am a businessman.
Charles Nurse will be around in due course. A final point about the club's future. Currently playing in the Scottish Third Division, it seems a bit odd to talk about moving to England or moving to a pan-European league, but you're ambitious. In the best of all worlds, how would that play out?
Well, look, there's been statements both domestically about restructuring, and what we saw in the last 2 weeks is Michel Platini talked about his enlarged Champions League option. Karl-Heinz Rummenigge talking from the European Clubs Association perspective of different leagues. We've already now for the first time got cross-border leagues because UEFA sanctioned this women's league in Belgium and Holland. So I think there is a precedent there now, and I think, you know, the drivers are going to be companies like yours, Jeff, the broadcasters, the TV companies that are looking for content, and it's hardly surprising to anyone that Celtic and Rangers would feature it in any league restructuring, and Peter Lowell said that at the Celtic EGM recently.
Rangers Charles